is coming up to Town Hall on the 27th of February 2026. And there's a protest up here tonight called Stop the War on Protest Slogans, which is put on by their Students Against War and Stop the War in Palestine groups. There's a few cops, only a couple. Got some sort of socialisty types handing out the material. The Christian guy's got his shit set up, so that's not going to go down overly well. Not a big crowd, so I'm running a little bit late, and it's already kicked off. Yeah, the Christians are just chilling and relaxing till they kick off. But Friday's always busy up here because once you get past these the group that are for this, then you've got the Assange. He's always at the protest. This is Copper. When you get past this section, then you've got the Assange people that are generally here as well. So these are the cops all having a chat. He's one of the cops. This is a guy with his rolling out the red carpet, which he did for Herzl, but he's upgraded it now. I used it the other day, but it's upgraded again. Yeah, quite a few cops, but so I think they think that the student groups usually have a bit of a run. But there's Tony, the infamous Tony Wakeham from the Assange protest, years and years. He's been here doing a lot of these guys are quite regular. It's free David McBride now. No extradition of Australian citizen to Dan Duggan to the US. I think he's the guy that had all the kids. Anyway, I don't quite know the story.
To speak up and expose corruption.
So that'll be happening for now. The cops are never here for them. The cops are only here for this group. Yeah, there's a picture of what's his face there? Elon Musk. And then there's all the signage. Yeah. And yeah, there's, like I said, a few cops around, a few of the regular faces here. I'd say the speeches will happen in this area. I don't think there's going to be a protest, because I'm not a protest, but a march. It may be, but I don't think so. Yeah, and there's a speaker over there, so maybe we'll just settle in and get organised for the speeches to kick off. All right, let's do that.
The fight for Indigenous justice continues on this continent, and actually the fight for Indigenous justice has also been at the forefront of the fight for Palestinian justice, particularly in recent weeks. You know, we've seen Indigenous leaders leading the rallies, leading the Invasion Day rally and taking back our right to march, and leading us on the night of Herzog at the rally here as well on that night. So I'd like to outline a bit about why we're here tonight. We're protesting the outrageous state of our rights in New South Wales, when we've got a government that's trying to silence speech, getting ready to pass laws banning chants like Globalise the Intifada. Shame. We've got a government that is charging armed cops and horses at ordinary people in the streets of Sydney, just here 2 weeks ago. And a government that's dragging Muslim men who were praying off the ground just over there outside Town Hall as they were trying to pray, dragging them away. Shame. All in the name of social cohesion. A government that is doing anything it can to silence criticism of Israel's ongoing genocidal action in Gaza and the violence in the West Bank that we're seeing, which we're going to hear about tonight from an eyewitness. Their defense for this repression is that they're claiming this is about anti-Semitism. The criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism. Bullshit. Even as it becomes clearer and clearer that the views of Jewish people in Australia and around the world are much more diverse when it comes to the question of Israel than Chris Minns would like to admit. So I'll start tonight's rally off by handing over to Jordan Ryan-Hennessy, who's a Bidjigal and Waka Waka man from La Perouse, who's going to start us off as our first speaker. Thanks, Jordan.
Sorry. Good to go. Nagano Korimara. Gamain Yambayangai. Gamain Yambayangai. Bidjigal Darawa Yuamba Katunga Kuringai. Waka Waka Ba Gomaroi Maringai. Gamaringai Darawlanga. Ngabamara Guli Dalanai. Gati Ranai. Gatiga Guli Ngora Nung Ngalamajang. Hello everyone, my name's Jordan. I'm a proud Bidjigal Waka man from Ātiawa out at Gamay. I pay my respects to my elders, past, present and emerging. We are gathering today on the lands of the Gweagal clan group, whose sovereignty was never ceded and whose presence and history dates all the way back to the time of creation. Despite this area being a concrete jungle, no matter how much they build over this place, Gweagal and the spirits of this land will always be here, and that is something that can never be taken away from this land. And that is something that can never be taken away from us as sovereign saltwater people of this country. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land! Gweagal Ngora. Ngora is our country. Country is our mother. We belong to country, Aboriginal people. We don't own the land owns us. So look after country, and country will look after you. We have gathered here today because we are going to continue to be a voice for those who do not have one. To defy and to fight for what is right against all odds. The New South Wales government have put a bill in place to ban the word intifada, or the phrase globalise the intifada. Just like the Queensland government have banned the phrase from the river to the sea. This isn't surprising, nor is it anything new from the New South Wales government. They are trying to silence the Arabic word intifada, just like they tried to wipe out my mob's language, Darawal, and all Aboriginal languages in and around the Sydney Basin and across the continent. It's important to remember, trying to wipe out Indigenous languages on their part isn't new from them. But the government, they failed. They failed to wipe out Darawal because of the resilience of my people who have kept it alive and continue to keep it alive today. The government failed to wipe it out, just like they're going to fail to wipe out the word intifada. Shout out to all First Nations peoples across the continent who are revitalising their language and practising them. And shout out to all oppressed peoples around the world who are keeping their languages alive. From our intifada to theirs, let's globalise our intifadas. Well, let's take a moment to appreciate what intifada means. Shaking off. An uprising against fascism, a resistance against genocide, a revolution to free us all from oppression and slavery under the current system. It is to fight for our rights as human beings until all human beings are free from oppression. It's important to remember freedom. We don't get freedom peacefully. It comes with things like the violence we endured at the rally against Herzog on the Monday. Shame! It comes with protesting and politically challenging against genocide of First Nations peoples here, Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, the West Papuans in Papua New Guinea, the Sudanese in Congo in Africa, and all oppressed peoples across the world, especially the atrocities that our government have contributed to and hold responsibility for. And it is the right thing to do to stand against those things. And it is the right thing to do to stand for equality and equity. We need to remember, the ones who are depriving us of our freedom aren't deserving of a peaceful approach. And that doesn't mean being violent and causing havoc. That's usually what the New South Wales police are paid to do to us. But it means taking the streets, coming to these rallies, taking a political stance. It means never backing down and to always fight for what's right. It means globalising the Intifada. Chris Minns. In the bin. Chris Minns, no matter what your government and the New South Wales police throw at us, we are going to continue to defy yous. We are going to continue to take a stance against genocide, against racism. We are going to continue to take a stance against homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, and anti-Semitism. Nobody is free until we are all free. Gweagal in Gaza, you'll buy Intifada Langa. From Gweagal to Gaza, globalise the Intifada. Daragang in Gaduyu, from the river to the sea, always was, always will be. Nanda Wadnor, everyone, thank you.
Always will be. Thanks so much, Jordan. I think it's beautiful. You know, we walked down the street, we marched down the street at Invasion Day chanting that always was, always will be, from the river to the sea. And I think that that chant carries the spirit of the solidarity between First Nations struggle here and around the world. And thanks so much, Jordan, for that wonderful opening speech. I think we saw it reported somewhere that Grace Tame was coming tonight. That's not happening. I apologise, but suffice to say that we do stand with Grace Tame. You know, we stand with Grace Tame. Just here 2 weeks ago on those steps, she stood up. She chanted that we have to continue to mobilise and we have to continue to globalise this fight against genocide in Palestine, and that means globalising the resistance against genocide, and that means that we are globalising the Intifada. She spoke about how we need to, you know, stand with all people who are shaking off that oppression, and I think we have many words that we want to say to Grace Tame, and that, you know, she's staunch, she's brave, she's honest, she's many words. And to those who try to censor and diminish her with words like difficult, I think we have some words for them. So I thought we might try a little exercise here. So we might start off just one word for Albanese. One word for Albanese. Sellout. I'm hearing sellout. I'm hearing shame. And one word for Chris Minns. I can see a traitor sign over there. He is. He's a traitor to the movement, the supposedly progressive, you know, party that he's trying to stand for. When actually we know that that's not what Albanese and Minns stand for anymore. Those progressive values, and in fact, even though members of their party are revolting against them today, especially what happened after what happened at the Herzog rally, where, you know, hundreds, thousands of us, I saw kids in strollers that night who were dragged off the street, kettled and crushed. Shame. So shame on them for doing that, and shame on them for doing it all in the name of rolling out the red carpet for a war criminal. So it's very important that we have a fight on here in New South Wales against what we saw from the Minns government that night, you know, crushing our right to protest. So I'm going to hand over to our next speaker, who's a Greens MP, who will, talk us through the fight that's been happening against that. So Amanda Cohn of the New South Wales Greens.
It's just wonderful to be here with you all tonight on Gadigal land that was stolen and never ceded. And I and many others, I'm sure, will talk about police brutality tonight, but there's no one who understands the impact of police brutality in this country more than our First Nations communities. And we should absolutely be inspired by their resilience and their resistance as we talk about this now. This weekend is Mardi Gras. Happy Mardi Gras. It's not lost on me or any of you, I'm sure, that in 1978, the very first Mardi Gras, was met with horrific police violence. The 1978ers were brave, they were courageous. They marched proudly in the streets when homosexuality was still a crime. They said we were here and we were proud, and they were met with brutal violence and doxing in the mainstream media. Just before I came to this rally tonight, I was celebrating Mardi Gras with some of the 78ers, people who were there, who faced the police in 1978. And I told them where I was going after that. I told them I was coming here. And they told me how chilling it was for them to watch what happened here on the 9th of February. That for them, it took them straight back to 1978 to see people proudly standing up for themselves, for what they believe in, and to be met directly with violence from the state. This is a terrible shame for our state, for our nation, and for our democracy. Like so many of you, I'm here to fight for human rights. My grandparents fled the Nazi Holocaust. They were Jewish German refugees who found safety in Australia, and their story taught me the importance of standing up for all persecuted people. And the Nazis didn't just come for the Jews in Germany. They persecuted people with disability, gay and trans people. They came for their political opponents. They locked up socialists and communists. And from that lesson, we have to learn to stand in solidarity with each other. That when people are marginalised, when people are persecuted, only together do we stand up. So what's happening in Parliament with Chris Minns' anti-protest laws? So we just had budget estimates today in the State Parliament, where the Police Minister and the Police Commissioner just tripled down on everything they've been saying for the last 2 weeks. Chris Minns is not going to wake up tomorrow morning or any other morning and just suddenly realise that he's on the wrong side of history. It's not happening. So how do we fix it? The only way that we get these anti-protest laws repealed in New South Wales is to keep showing up over and over again. That's why I'm so proud to be here with you today. I was so proud to be with you here on the 9th, and I'm sure I will be with you again.
Amanda. And I think Amanda's right, you know, the legacy of the Mardi Gras and the absolute bravery of the 78ers on the action that they took on that night, that is exactly the example of the bravery that is needed right now in the fight for Palestine. You know, it shows us that the only rights we win are the rights that we actually take, the rights that we take to the street and that we demand and that we make known. So yeah, I think on the eve of the Mardi Gras, we should stand in solidarity with that legacy of the 78ers, many of whom, like Amanda said, were dragged off the streets right here on that night, bringing them right back to the violence of 1978. So we stand with that legacy. And in that spirit, I'm going to hand over to our next speaker, who's a member of a group called Pride in Protest, who've been actually fighting back for the Mardi Gras, you know, to be what it once was, as a political action that takes on oppression everywhere, trans oppression and oppression of the genocide that's happening in Palestine. So I'll hand over to Riley.
Thanks. Thanks everyone. Surprise, I thought I was later on in the evening. Thank you so much. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are everywhere on this continent on unceded Aboriginal land. I'd like to pay respect to elders past and present, extend that to all Aboriginal people here today, and as others have mentioned, I think the irony, or the horrible irony, isn't lost on us that on this exact part of Gadigal country, First Nations people were right on the front lines of police violence, and the violence we saw on the 9th at the Herzog rally. It was First Nations people standing in solidarity with other colonised siblings overseas who again bore the brunt of police violence. And I think it's important to remember that the police as an institution on this continent was set up explicitly to enact violence upon First Nations people, and that's what it continues to do to this day. So I was going to be a little more prepared for today. I hoped I would have some time this afternoon to write a speech. But instead today, we, Pride and Protest, received threats from Mardi Gras to kick us out of the Mardi Gras parade tomorrow. We have been threatened that unless we remove some social media posts about genocide, we will be removed from the Mardi Gras parade. This is somewhat unprecedented, which is why we've been spending a lot of today trying to figure out how best to respond. I guess what I will say on this before I move on to what I had hoped to talk about today is this is kind of the perfect encapsulation of the police state that Chris Minns is intent on creating. The federal Labor government with Albanese rolling out the red carpet to a war criminal in lockstep with both federal and New South Wales police intent on using increasing, heightening, greater levels of violence, fully backed in by Minns and Albanese, all in support of Israel's continued ability to enact genocide without criticism from anybody. So as it stands right now, we haven't yet heard what the verdict is, whether or not we will be allowed to march in our float tomorrow at Mardi Gras, which is a float, by the way, standing firmly in solidarity with our Palestinian siblings abroad. Our float is called Celebration Without Compromise, saying that yes, we can celebrate our queer identity without compromising on our values. We don't need to bow to these Labour governments, to the police and to the Zionists in order to celebrate our queerness. So Amanda said a little bit of what I was going to say. The beginning of the Mardi Gras in 1978, the 24th of June, I believe, in 1978, a group of queer and trans people and their allies came together to protest. Now, it was a protest for queer rights, but it was also very explicitly, that first Mardi Gras was a protest against police brutality. It was a protest with the demands end police attacks on queer people, on Aboriginal people, and on women. And that was the protest that the police then descended on and brutally attacked. They assaulted and injured and arrested dozens and dozens of people that night. And the other part of that is what came out of that night was one of the most significant strengthenings we've ever seen in New South Wales for our right to protest. While atrocious, that police brutality was the catalyst. We saw the laws change in New South Wales to better enshrine our right to freedom of peaceful assembly, and it's these exact rights that were hard fought by generations past of queer and trans activists and Aboriginal activists and allies that Chris Minns is right now intent on rolling right back, and he's doing it in Mardi Gras season. I don't know if there's anything that spits in the face of generations of human rights activists more than Chris Minns using Mardi Gras season to try and hand additional powers to the greatest perpetrator of violent hate crimes against our community that exists on this continent, which is the police force. Now, I would not be able to list every example of police violence towards the queer and trans community because we would be here for years. But I want to just mention a few names. In 2009, cops raided Veronica Baxter's home. They violently arrested her. Veronica Baxter was a First Nations transgender woman. Police violently arrested her for drug charges. They denied her bail, held her in custody, forced her into a men's prison, and she died in custody. In 2013 and in 2014, at the Mardi Gras parade, police brutally bashed queer people. That's Bryn Hutchinson and Jamie Jackson Reid. In 2020, a police officer on duty was caught on camera chasing down an Aboriginal man and repeatedly tasing him in the face. That man was Chris Bradshaw. That man was photographed that same year marching in his police uniform in the Mardi Gras parade police force float. And that same police officer in 2024 allegedly used his police-issued firearm to murder a gay couple during Mardi Gras season. And the last thing I'll talk about is just last year. Colin Burling was a gay man who was killed by police last year right in front of his partner, Tate Collins. We all saw the horrific police violence that was enacted right here earlier this month. So again, I say the New South Wales Police Force has always been one of the greatest perpetrators of violence against our community. And so the fact that Chris Minns has responded to this news breaking of homophobic hate crimes by handing greater powers and greater weapons to our abusers is both racist because it is scapegoating Muslim and Arab communities, but it is also violently homophobic and transphobic. So Chris Minns, you can't pinkwash a genocide and you can't pinkwash a police state.
Free Palestine! Free
Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Thanks so much, Riley, and well done to Pride in Protest for continuing to stand up for that real spirit of Mardi Gras, of fighting for our rights, for liberation, for people, for queer people here, but also people all around the world. And I think it shows you that really, when it comes to the chant, globalise the Intifada, the only way that we are going to be able to defend the rights, the slogans of the Palestine movement is by going ahead and chanting them. You know, we do have to continue to actually just go out on the street and make our voices heard, because banning the word Intifada, it is a racist slur against this movement to ban a word in Arabic but not ban it in English. You know, it is a call for the shaking off of oppression of people all around the world. So from Gweagal to Gaza, Gweagal to Gaza, I'm going to hand over to Adam from Stop the War on Palestine to talk a bit more about this disgraceful ban on the chant.
Everyone, and thank you for coming to this important protest. As we stand here where Chris Minns literally wants to make it punishable by jail to say the phrase, globalise the Intifada. And what does Minns think of this phrase? He says, it's hateful and violent. It's Arabic for uprising. It's Arabic for throwing off. If you wanted to look at one person that should be thrown off, it's Chris Minns in New South Wales. And this disgraceful Premier has the gall to tell us we're hateful and violent for chanting this phrase of resistance. When he unleashed the riot cops on his own people and beat them senseless in the streets for standing up against an advocate of genocide just down the road. What's violent and hateful, Chris Minns, is your cops bashing Muslims in the street while they're praying. What's hateful and violent, Chris Minns, is the police under your direction bashing Muslims in the street and calling them racial slurs as they do it. What is violent and hateful, Chris Minns, is a 69-year-old being sent to the eye hospital next to your parliament with 4 broken vertebrae by the police you unleashed on her on February 9th. You will be forever disgraced, Chris Minns, the blood-stained genocide apologist of a Premier who is hopefully very soon a former Premier. But what has he done after the massive community-wide backlash which is extended into his own party against the brutality, the violence and hate he unleashed and that he hosted when he hosted Herzog? What has he done? He's rewarded the perpetrators. He's given the cops that did it a new unit with 250 police, with long-armed rifles, with more resources. That's what he's done to show his accountability. This is the same police force, the same prisons, the same police, the same courts that he is empowering that killed the most number of Indigenous people in custody on record last year. He says they're going to stop hate crime. How are they going to stop hate crime when they're the ones committing it, as Riley so eloquently put? This stinking Premier, he should be funding our hospitals instead of sending grandmothers to them on a gurney for exercising their democratic rights. He should be funding the schools that our kids go to instead of pepper spraying those kids in the street and saying he backs the police that did it the next day. So, like I said, he said the phrase globalised intifada is hateful and violent. Can anyone remember him saying Israel slaughtering, by their own admission, at least 70,000 Palestinians and 20,000 kids was hateful and violent? Can anyone remember him saying the 355 bullets they blasted into the car where 5-year-old Hind Rajab was in Gaza? Does anyone remember him saying that was hateful and violent? For this Premier, it's not genocide that's hateful and violent, it's standing up to it. And that is a very sick individual as far as everyone in this state is concerned. Right now, we're in a country where it is legal to be a dual citizen and fight for the IDF, a genocidal army, and they want to come and tell us it's going to be a crime punishable by jail to talk about resistance against that genocidal army. People think the world has turned on its head when they hear that. They think there's no logic to it. They think the world's gone mad. There is a logic to it. It's a logic of genocide. It's a logic of Donald Trump and Netanyahu. It's a logic of imperialism. And we will continue to defy him on these streets until that genocide he's supporting is finished and the state that's doing it is defeated. But we're not just here to say he's a sickening hypocrite. We defend the courageous history of Palestinian resistance encapsulated in the word intifada. The decades and decades of courageous resistance against occupation, apartheid and genocide. We don't let racist, discredited, rule for the rich politicians tell us what intifada means. We listen to the Palestinians who have been part of that intifada. For example, the first intifada started in 1987, 20 years straight of direct Israeli occupation and brutality. It was triggered by 4 Palestinians being run over and crushed by a tank by the occupier. That's what triggered the first intifada. And just to talk about one of the participants, Naila Ayesh, she was a young woman in 1987, and this is what she said about it. There is only one solution, and that is to end the occupation. The occupation will not end if we are submissive and stay home. You know what the Israelis did? They arrested her in 1987 when she was pregnant, and they tortured her till she miscarried. What answer to that level of disgraceful brutality is there except uprising and intifada? It's the only answer. And that's what means is trying to erase, because if you want to erase a people, you have to erase their humanity, you have to erase their history of courageous resistance, and that's what we refuse to let him do. And the Minns government, in their rushed inquiry that they used to try and ram through this ban, they talked about the second intifada and how violent it was. And they said that's why the phrase globalised intifada is hateful and violent. I'll tell you how violent the second intifada was. 4,973 Palestinians were killed. 1,262 Palestinian children were killed. The amount of Palestinians killed was 5-1 to the Israelis, because that is the reality. Occupation and colonialism is violent inherently. Every day it exists is violent inherently. And that's why we say intifada till the occupation is gone. From Gweagal to Gaza. From Gweagal to Gaza. But we have to remember as well, what he's doing with globalised the intifada, he's not going to stop there. It's the thin edge of a wedge. The New South Wales Police just put out a press release when they announced that 250 hate crime squad, which sounds more like a description of the squad than the crime it's going to stop. They said they'd sent a delegation in January to learn from other countries. Where'd they send it? Germany and the UK. Germany, where they banned from the river to the sea, where they arrested people for speaking Arabic at demonstrations, where they put EU sanctions on their own people for supporting Palestine. They sent the New South Wales police delegation to the UK that is arming a terror state, but say it prescribed Palestine action for resisting the arming of a terror state as a terrorist group, and arrested thousands of its own people. So that's the future Minns wants to bring to New South Wales. And that's why on February 9, we were right to say no. We demand the right to rally. We'll march on our own streets whether you like it or not. And with Grace Tame, we'll chant globalise the Intifada. And I think I just wanted to finish with what it means to globalise the Intifada. It means boycotting and striking like the Palestinians did in the first Intifada. It means resisting like they did in the first Intifada. It means striking against the arms shipments like they did in Italy and Greece. It means stopping the arms shipments by any means available that are coming out of the Quick Step factory at Bankstown and going to the F-35s that are still bombing the refugee tents in Gaza. It means ending the intelligence from Pine Gap, which is going straight to Israel and straight to Trump as he prepares for war on Iran. It means if their laws protect genocide, we will break those laws. We'll do what they did in the UK. Thousands of people were ready to go to jail over Palestine action, and only after they took their stand, the court said, actually it was illegal. Because the action, you know, is what is necessary to turn the tide. Now, I just want to finish with, you know, Trump's killing machine is global, Lockheed Martin's global, BAE Systems is global, the US military bases that are backing Israel are global, the complicity is global, whether it's Minns, it's Albanese, it's Sisi in Egypt, it's the Jordanian king, all of them have blood on their hands, and that's why the Intifada must be global. I couldn't believe it when we sent Herzog packing from this country, disgraced as a war criminal, as a genocide supporter, met by massive protests. His last words before he left were, "There's hope in the air." It wasn't hope, Herzog, it was OC spray. That's what was in the air as you left, and the repression we saw during that visit isn't a sign of strength. It's the last resort of people who are losing the argument about Palestine, and who we are going to make sure keep losing till every tie is cut and Palestine is free. So from Gadigal land to Minneapolis to Gaza, globalise the Intifada.
Intifada, Intifada.
Intifada, Intifada.
Long live the Intifada.
Long live the Intifada.
Intifada, Intifada.
Intifada, Intifada.
Long live the Intifada.
Long live the Intifada.
Thanks, Adam, for that powerful speech. And Adam, of the abuse we're continuing to see, the genocide we're continuing to see in Palestine, and I do want to get to, we will have speakers tonight about some of the horrors that we're seeing. Just recently, a whole family thrown out of their home because of settler violence in the West Bank, and forced to flee, bashed, brutalized. So we'll be talking about that. But first, I did want to hand over. We just got 11th hour news of, I think, a classic example of exactly what Adam was just talking about, that, you know, the dying gasps of when they know they're losing the argument. We've been told that the ABC has pulled a panel that was supposed to be on tomorrow night, talking about policing and protest ahead of the Mardi Gras parade. So, shame indeed. And one of the people in that panel, Latoya Aroha Rule, who's a Wiradjuri, Te Ātiawa and Takapatui queer researcher and anti-torture coalition founder, is here and is going to read a statement on that.
I'm here with Auntie Wendy Bacon, who's a 78er and who has done an incredible amount of work. First and foremost, we both, alongside everybody, want to acknowledge Gadigal land, Gadigal Nura, that we are beneficiaries of Aboriginal resources and that sovereignty has never been ceded, but that means that we must enter into dialogue with Gadigal people and other Aboriginal people on whose lands we're living in to actually ask them respectfully what kind of access we should be having and what kind of dialogues we should be having. So that's something for everybody to take home. If we're going to look at treaty in New South Wales, if we're going to look at truth-telling, especially around genocide, which is what is the key issue here. It's the same genocide, it's the same British genocide if we really think about it as well. So go home and ask Aboriginal people in your local area what you can do for them. So I'm gonna read a statement on behalf of Auntie Wendy here and I, because we were part of a panel that was supposed to be on last Friday that we filmed for 4 or 5 hours actually. It was quite a long day for us. And as of this morning, or rather last night, depending on when people will receive the news, exactly, we were told that they're taking it down. And why are they taking it down? Because we've done so well. I was one of the first arrested on Monday 2-3 weeks ago now. Auntie Wendy was also present around the space, and obviously many of us here today were brutalised by those police. So on the panel, we definitely brought up those issues. We spoke on police brutality, we spoke about Mardi Gras, of course, but we more so spoke about the need for cops out and mins out in all respects. Which is why we believe that they are not going to publish this. So I'm going to read our statement that's public, that people can obviously copy, or is on my Instagram and has been sent out to media as well. So if there are any interviews, please, Auntie Wendy and I are here. ABC pulls panel on policing and protests ahead of Mardi Gras parade tomorrow. Serious concerns raised. This statement follows a cancellation of a panel discussion examining whether New South Wales police should march in the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras parade. The panel, which was to include discussion of protest rights, hate laws, policing and broader issues affecting First Nations, Palestinian, faith-based and queer diverse communities, was withdrawn on the eve of Mardi Gras today. The decision has removed a public forum for discussion at a time when debate about policing, civil liberties, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, racism and protest restrictions is both active and urgent. We are seeking an immediate explanation and a formal apology from Hugh Marks, ABC Deputy Ombudsman and Managing Director, and Jennifer Collins, Director of Screen at ABC. Us both, but I know our communities are standing up against this as well and demanding this same list that we're demanding regarding the executive rationale for pulling the panel. The timing is concerning. In recent days, public debate has obviously intensified around hate laws, protest bans and allegations, true allegations, let's be real, of violent, brutal policing and demonstrations against Muslim, Palestinian, Jewish and First Nations peoples for Palestine. The cancelled panel was consistent with long-standing positions that support both strong protections against racial vilification and the protection of democratic protest rights, which we're all here standing up for. These are not competing principles. Communities must be protected from hate, and we must be free to protest injustice. I'm going to read Auntie Wendy's statement that she's put in our media release. We participated in this crucial public interest debate and consented for it to be edited and broadcast before the Mardi Gras march on the understanding that the ABC would deliver on assurances that it proceed according to principles of editorial independence. So essentially we were told that it would be published today, and that despite our position, there were 3 on one side, you might see in the photos, and 3 on the other, The other three who were pro-police or pro-police marching at Mardi Gras, one was an ex-police officer who had been brutalised in his experience during his time in the cops, left after 30 years. Another 78er who was pro-cop, don't know why, was also brutalised by the police. And then another person who was on there has also had experiences of transphobia and police violence. So, of course, us three on the anti-cop side, I would say won the debate, and we were quite strong. The ABC has an obligation, thus, as a public broadcaster, to facilitate difficult discussions, as it has in the past. We've all seen Q&A, we've all seen them highlight different politicians and their perspectives, particularly where state power and civil liberties are intersecting. Some of us have already been part of historic interviews and have worked very well with the ABC. Pulling a panel discussion because of solidarity with Palestine, First Nations and non-First Nations protest rights, and violent policing of Australians, especially heightened in the past weeks, raises serious questions about whether external political pressures or sensitivities influence the decision today. I'm just highlighting that because I know that Pride and Protest has also been going on through this today, and quite a few others, I imagine, have been receiving calls from alleged, no caller IDs. Some of us have received, and it's quite disgusting vitriol and scum. So we're demanding of Hugh Marks and Jennifer Collins of the ABC whether the decision to cancel the panel today was made at their level, on what editorial grounds for withdrawing a lawful pre-scheduled discussion they have, whether concerns about Palestine advocacy influence the decision, and if the government, Min's government, or any other government, or other external persons have ran an interference, as has been witnessed in recent events across the Australian arts and journalism spaces. And I'm talking there as somebody who was born on Ghana Yarta and Adelaide and what's happened to Rhonda. And I'm talking there about Subsabi and also Creative Australia. So we know that there has been interference around when we do this justice work, when we are actually proceeding, when we are taking ground, that they end up coming for people like us, coming for organisers, coming for all of you for speaking out, and we will not stand by it. Globalise the Intifada. This has always been Aboriginal land, and we will continue to speak wherever we fucking please. Thank you.
To the sea. Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
Always was, always will be.
Always was, always will be.
Thank you so much, Latoya. So I might do a couple more chants. So what's a good one? What's the F-35 song? Chris Minns, you can't hide, you supply F-35.
Chris Minns, you can't hide, you supply F-35.
Albanese, you can't hide, you supply F-35.
Albanese, you can't hide, you supply F-35.
Netanyahu, you can't hide, you're committing genocide.
Netanyahu, you can't hide, you're committing genocide.
Isaac Herzog, you can't hide, you're committing genocide.
Isaac Herzog, you can't hide, you're committing genocide.
ABC, you can't hide, you're supporting genocide.
ABC, you can't hide, you're supporting genocide.
Chris Minns, you can't hide, you're supporting genocide.
Chris Minns, you can't hide, you're supporting genocide.
Thanks everyone, and I'm going to hand over next to a speaker who is at the forefront of the fight against these laws from the New South Wales government. We've seen the shame that they'd come for the teachers. You know, we've got teachers who are doing their absolute best to be honest, having to talk to a room full of kids who are questioning a genocide that they're seeing on their phones every day, and the teachers are the front line of having to have those conversations with young people about what is going on. And for that work, for that hard work that they've been doing for the the last 2.5 years, they've been persecuted, they've been silenced, they've been told that they can be sacked for what they say, you know, sacked for what they say in the classroom, and now they're being told that they can be sacked for what they say outside the classroom with this shame, with this new New South Wales Code of Conduct. So I'm going to hand over to Epie Nash from Teachers and School Staff for Palestine.
I start with acknowledging the traditional custodians of this land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and any Aboriginal people here with us today. This was, is and always will be Aboriginal land. It appears that Chris Minns is more offended by slogans than the slaughter of tens of thousands of innocent Palestinian men, women and children. More offended by slogans than the deliberate bombing of churches, mosques, schools and hospitals. Offended by slogans, but apparently not offended by genocide, occupation, ethnic cleansing and apartheid. Minns is offended by slogans and seeks to portray them as hate speech. The attempts by the Minns government to ban the slogan, globalise the Intifada, which is a worldwide cry of liberation, is not only an attack on the Palestinian solidarity movement, but also an attack on teachers and their right to freedom of expression. Premier Chris Minns has changed the Teachers' Code of Conduct to incorporate new hate speech laws. At no point has he said what problem against teachers he thinks this is addressing, or given a single example of teachers' behaviour he thinks is a problem, but calling the slogan "Globalise the Intifada" hate speech makes it clear that he is attacking the Palestine movement, not racism or any other form of hate. If this slogan is banned, it will become part of our Code of Conduct. Minns has also made it clear that these amendments will apply to what teachers post on social media, meaning that teachers may face disciplinary action or even dismissed simply for sharing an image from a peaceful protest carrying this slogan. Minns told the media, "We're not going to wait for a police prosecution and then a court case. If it is clear to NISA that there's been a breach, then sanctions will apply." In other words, this is a McCarthyist witch hunt with a judiciary body set up as judge and jury. This, of course, is complete hypocrisy from Minns. He welcomed the war criminal Isaac Herzog to Sydney, permitting the police brutality against those who peacefully protested his visit on our own streets. Minns then allowed that same war criminal who said there are no innocents in Gaza, who signed bombs that rained down on innocent civilians, who said we will fight until we break the Palestinians' backbones, to tour a Jewish school. School students were made to shake the hand of the man who has the blood of 20,000 school children and over 800 teachers on his hands. That is hate. That does damage to Jewish students who are not told of Herzog's crimes, but made to shake his hands. We teach our children peace, yet these policies deepen divisions. As educators, we cannot remain silent in the face of such tyranny, and we will not fear standing up or speaking out in defence of human rights in Palestine and here. We teach peace. We teach peace. Minns spreads hate. But Minns can be beaten. But we need the kind of defiance we saw when Herzog visited. Minns anti-protest laws designed to protect the war criminal were broken by people who defied him, marching on Sydney streets against Herzog. We need to defy Minns collectively over his attacks on free speech and the Palestine movement, in particular through our unions. The PSA, the Public Servants Union, has already raised concerns that there was no consultation with unions over the changes to the Code of Conduct. But unions need to go further. They need to say they will defend any members who use the slogan, and they need to use it themselves in union journals or on social media. Banning the slogan is an attempt by Minns to criminalise the history of the resistance of Palestinian people, to whitewash Israel's genocide in Gaza and to smear the whole Palestine movement. The slogan itself is about solidarity. Globalise the Intifada has never been used to incite violence or hatred. It is a call to globalise the struggle for the freedom of the Palestinian people, to spread the most effective tactics of the movement, such as the general strike in Italy for Palestine and union bans on Israeli goods and services. Intifada literally means to shake off in Arabic. Banning the word intifada is racist, as English equivalents of the word will not be banned. Means ban is the thin edge of the wedge. If globalise the intifada is banned, who knows what is next? Every unionist needs to stand up to means bullying and intimidation. We must continue the fight, even when our livelihoods are threatened, our voices censored and our movement vilified. We must remain defiant. I recently saw a video in which a young man in a rain-soaked tent calls out to the world in a cry of anguish and pain. He says, "Oh world, we are calling upon you for help, so come to our aid. Oh God, we seek refuge in you, so grant us relief from what is happening to us from all sides. Rain is flooding our tents. Planes are terrifying our children. Bombs here and there. A terrifying future awaits our children. It is astounding, even diabolical to me that those in power think that it is our movement that is spreading hate." Another young man, Ahmed, only 24, living in Gaza and displaced from Rafah, recently messaged my dear friend a few days ago, and he said, "The news of the World Central Kitchen suspending its work in Gaza stopped me in my tracks. It may seem like passing news to some, but to us, it's not news. It's a catastrophe. Do you know what it means for food to stop in a place where we are already living on the edge of hunger? Can you imagine a mother waiting for an aid meal to feed her children only to be told there is no food today? Can you imagine a child asking his mother, "When will we eat?" and she has no answer? In Gaza, many families have no kitchen, no income, not even an option. Those meals are not a luxury, they are the bare minimum for survival. He continues to say, "We are not asking for fleeting sympathy. We are asking for our humanity to be seen, that the voice of the hungry be heard before it turns into another number in the news. Must we starve even more for the world to move? Gaza is homes, mothers and children waiting for a piece of bread. The world's silence today is not neutrality. Silence is when people are hungry is a position. We are not asking for the impossible. We are only asking that food remain a right and not a tool of pressure. That life remains a right, not a privilege." And so I say to Chris Minns and other leaders that you can continue to be offended by slogans, and we will continue to be offended and against genocide, occupation, ethnic cleansing, starvation, and the dehumanization of Palestinian men, women and children. We will never be silenced in the face of it. We know who we are. We are people of conscience, and this is a movement that stands with humanity and the struggle of the oppressed for freedom and liberation. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
For that very, very powerful speech. I think, you know, hearing about the starvation that's ongoing, hearing about the brutality people are still facing, you know, it is inescapable for people. It's part of people's lives to know about these things. You know, it's Ramadan at the moment, and we know that our Muslim brothers and sisters, for them, you know, fasting and then breaking that fast at night, it's difficult when you know that people in Palestine don't have the ability to do that, to have that simple moment of breaking their fast because they are starving. And you know, people think of it every day. Well, Epie, you know, in the classroom, there's students who ask questions about this, and the teachers are the ones there having to explain it. So it is inescapable, it's everywhere, and I think, you know, the fight against this New South Wales government is part of that broader fight to free people in Palestine from that oppression. We've got a rally that's coming up on the night of Tuesday 17th of March. We've called this as a follow-up action right before we're expecting those laws to be pushed through Parliament. We're going to rally. We need, you know, 20 times the people here, because the defiance that we saw on the night of the Herzog rally, like Epie was talking about, that's the defiance that we need to push back against these laws. We were all there. We felt the spirit of people who refused to just go home, who marched down towards Central, even as they were being kettled and pepper sprayed. And we need to bring that defiance right to the steps of New South Wales Parliament on Tuesday, the 17th of March, to tell them what we think of them passing these laws. So, Intifada, Intifada! Long live the Intifada! Long live the Intifada! I'm going to hand over to our final speaker, Allora Lizavoy, who was eyewitness actually last year to some of the violence in the West Bank, and unfortunately Allora has in the last week heard a really horrible news from the family that she spent time with over there, who she got to know, who was so generous in hosting her, that they've been, you know, evicted from their home because of settler attacks. They've been brutalized, and it's just an absolute shame, and I think it brings us all back to the reason that we're here tonight. So I'll hand over to Allora.
Hello. So I guess I'm going to start talking, I'm going to tell a story more than a speech. So in November last year, I visited the West Bank. I went with an organisation called the International Solidarity Movement. Here I was staying with families in Masafayata, Hebron, Khalil, and in a village called Almagaya near Ramallah, doing protective presence or solidarity presence. So the family I stayed with in Almagaya was called the Abu Hammam family. The family is largely a matriarchal family, as the father and the grandfather are shepherds and are often off with the sheep and stay with the sheep often to protect them. Three generations of the family live there. So there's the grandmother and the grandfather, there's the mother and the father and the uncle and the aunt, and six children live there from 2 months old to 14 years of age. Actually, the 2-month-old has been born recently. When I was there, Fatima was pregnant. So that's a nice story. They're an incredibly wonderful family, incredibly generous, incredibly funny and warm, and it was quite wonderful staying with them. So the family has lived in that house since 2019. Prior to that, they have been been pogromed out of 4 other houses in different areas. And when they moved to Almagaya, they invested a lot of their money and their possessions into building what they hope would be their forever home. However, they have, since moving there, experienced increasing harassment and violence from settlers in collusion with the IOF. The settlers kill livestock, they poison sheep, they destroy property, they destroy water tanks, they destroy solar panels, they burn tents. The family has been physically assaulted many, many times. Family members have been arrested for daring to film these attacks, or they've been arrested under false claims that their property is in a military zone. And these attacks have increased and escalated since the genocide, or this current version of the genocide in Gaza, has begun. Whilst I was there, the family was harassed daily. And this harassment took many different forms. There was one day where we were going to a wedding. I have no idea whose wedding it was, none whatsoever. and the auntie had she'd driven down to pick us up. It was always quite risky having a car come down the driveway because the driveway has already been taken by the settlers, so it was always quite risky. On seeing the auntie arrive, the drone started flying to figure out who was there, how many people were there, and then the settlers came down themselves to check us out, came onto the property, came to the house. They didn't really do anything, they were just there to intimidate us. And the family finally getting jack of it, and thinking they couldn't let the settlers get in the way of a good time, we left to go to the wedding. Some stayed behind, but I went along to the wedding. And as we were driving up the driveway, you saw the settlers get on the phone. And as we got to the end of the driveway, the IOF was there waiting for us. Here they took our IDs, they questioned us, they held us for maybe about 20 minutes before we continued on to the wedding, and they went down to the house and questioned everyone there. But this showed extreme collusion between the settlers and the IOF. There is no separation. Settlers are the IOF. Settlers are not only just the IOF, they are the Israeli state, and they are the Israeli government. Ben-Gvir and Smotrich themselves are settlers. The reason that every settler in the West Bank has a gun is because of Ben-Gvir. The reason that every settler is gifted an ATV, the little buggies that they use to drive around and harass us, is because they have been gifted by the Israeli government. Anyway, I went to the wedding, had the time of my life. We danced, we ate, we sung songs. It was wonderful. The next day, there were settlers. So the house is on a valley, and on the other side, there's only 2 Palestinian families left in this valley. My family and another family, the Abunaj family. And in this valley, you can see countless other homes where Palestinian families have been programmed out of and that have now been taken over by settlers. This morning when we woke up, there were settlers on the other side, maybe 16 settlers, shepherds, which might sound mundane, except they're all armed to their teeth, and they're using their sheep to destroy Palestinian land that is used as their livelihoods. They take them into olive groves, the sheep strip the trees of the olives and the fruit. When these settlers were over there was also a couple of Palestinians on the ridge on that side whose property it was, and they were just watching them. But then the gunshot started, and it turns out that actually shot in our direction at the 14-year-old son, the 14-year-old boy that I was living with. Then another group of settlers who were talking to this group on the phone came down onto our property and were being like staying watch for the other people on the other ridge. This guy was a delight. He called us human carcasses and threatened to come back and to get us. Meanwhile, Farah, the little girl, was poking her tongue out at him, shaking her bum in his face or behind his back. After he left, another settler came, and then after he left, then a group of IDF soldiers came. They were very curious about the international volunteers who were there. They took our passports, they questioned us, then they accused our family of being the ones that had fired the gun in the direction of the settlers.
Shame! Liars!
This IDF soldier was Australian. Since leaving, this family has experienced increased violence. In December, mass settlers armed with clubs attacked the volunteers and the family inside their tents, injuring the grandfather and Rizik, the young boy, and hospitalizing both of them, as well as the 4 volunteers that were there at that time. Devastatingly, this sustained, coordinated campaign by the settlers in collusion with the military has succeeded in displacing the Abu Hamam family from their land. In this last week, the neighbouring Abu Naj family were raided by the IOF under false accusations of stone throwing. The soldiers broke security cameras and arrested a man simply for filming the settlers. Terrified, the family decided that they could no longer endure the violence. They dismantled their homes overnight and fled. That left only the Abu Hammam family, the last family remaining in this valley. The next day, after the Abu Naj family left, they experienced a day not unlike any other day, with relentless visits by settlers. There was a bunch of underage settlers, 6 underage settlers who arrived in a 4-wheel drive, who abused and harassed everyone. Then the army came and searched and raided the house. Then another shepherd settler came. Then at 4 p.m. that day, approximately 12 settlers forced their way into the home. They broke the family's furniture, smashed their belongings, destroyed their solar panels, emptied their water tanks, which caused the property to flood. They destroyed the bathroom. They destroyed the tents that the family was living in. They then trapped 39-year-old Ātiawa, who is the aunt of the family. They trapped her with her 13-year-old daughter Lulu and the 75-year-old grandfather Rizik in a cave where they violently beat them. They were all hospitalised. Simultaneously, as members of Almagaya, the town nearby, attempted to come and support the family, the Israeli military forces conducted a raid on the village, firing tear gas at residents. Those that did try to come and get to the family, there was some international activists and some family members who managed to get to the home, and they were shot at by Israeli settlers and soldiers. 2 family members, the uncle was shot in the back, and a 13-year-old boy, the nephew, was shot in the foot. And essentially the family decided that they could not endure this. They left. But in a final act of resistance, they set fire to what was left so that the settlers would not materially benefit any more than the land they'd already stolen from their homes and belongings. So these 2 forced displacements were a coordinated effort between the Israeli forces and illegal Israeli settlers as part of a much broader goal to displace all 5,000 residences of Almagaya. These 2 families were the last remaining Palestinian families in this area. So if Australia claims to recognise Palestinian statehood while continuing to supply parts for the planes bombing Gaza and supplying steel to the Israeli military that violently displaces people and kills people, and if it condemns settlement expansion yet welcomes those responsible like Herzog, and if it claims to stand for international law yet does not sanction Israel but will criminalise the speech of those documenting its violations and standing against it, then it is our responsibility, our moral responsibility to stand up, speak out and refuse to be silenced. We must globalise the Intifada. As Australian politicians want to ban the slogan, they claiming it is dangerous, claiming it is hateful, but the truth is far simpler. They want to ban it because it is Palestinian. They want to ban it because they are racist. They want to ban it because it expresses refusal to accept occupation, dispossession and erasure. And they want to ban it because they do not own that word. They do not control it. At its core, it means uprising, it means shaking off. And it is a concept of community resilience, resistance, and desire for liberation. Intifada is when a little girl pokes her tongue out at a settler after her 13-year-old brother has just been shot at by settlers. Intifada is when a grandmother tries to force feed you to maintain your energy while the IOF are interrogating and harassing you for hours. Intifada is when an 8-month pregnant woman films a soldier who is pointing a gun at her pregnant belly without fear. Intifada is when a family dances to Arabic music blasting from their phone while settlers shepherd kids, shove and spit on them. Intifada is attending weddings and dancing and laughing and eating and singing and dressing up and painting nails whilst drones fly overhead and soldiers commit raids on houses. An intifada is community. Don't get me wrong though, intifada is also throwing stones. Intifada is also striking. It is also breaking laws when those laws fail to protect people. Because what else can you do when your family is being beaten, your sheep are being poisoned, your livelihood being destroyed, your culture being destroyed, and your brothers and sisters killed? We must not bow down. We must not normalize this. We must fight back against our own rights being rolled back, but we must also fight back with everything we have for Palestinians and everyone living under an oppressive system. We must normalize, globalize the intifada. Wear it to work. Say it in passing. We know what it means, and if people such as Mins who are too ignorant to work it out and do their own work, then we need to make sure that we teach them. And as Hidea, the auntie who was beaten, said, we did not neglect our responsibility. We did not give up our land. We did not leave by choice. We left against our will. We owe it to her and we owe it to every Palestinian. We cannot neglect our responsibility. So from Gweagal to Gaza, globalize the intifada.
I think all of us just cannot get over that story of people having to actually set fire to their own house in order to stop someone else from taking it from them by force. It is heartbreaking, it is gut-wrenching, and it reminds us why we need to continue the exact kind of fight that Allora spoke about. I think, Allora spoke about the way that Israel is actively driving that settler violence. They are arming it, and who supplies the weapons? It is the US. It is the alliance that Australia is part of. Who supplies the intelligence that allows them to target areas of the West Bank to clear that land? Who hosts the president of that country while it was passing laws to annex more of the West Bank? They had him here while that was happening. Israel's stated aim of those laws was to continue to kill the idea of a Palestinian state. It's deliberate. It is not something that is just happening on the other side of the world that Australia has nothing to do with, as Mins would have us believe. And that is why we continue to talk about this right here in Sydney. We continue to bring the intifada to right here in Sydney, because the fight is right here. It's in all of our lives. And I think my favourite placard that I saw at one of these recent rallies just said, "It's already globalised." I think that shows you that they are too late to make us pretend that the genocide has nothing to do with what's happening here in Australia. They can try and ban a chant, but they cannot ban our knowledge, our awareness, and our willingness to fight back all around the world. So we'll be outside Parliament on Tuesday the 17th of March. We won't be marching tonight, but we're going to bring back even more numbers then. We're going to have we're going to march that night on Tuesday. We'll meet outside on New South Wales Parliament, and we need to go out and spread the word about this, because exactly like everyone here has said tonight, the only way we can actually beat back these laws is to break them, is to take them on the streets, just like they did in 1978 in the Mardi Gras. So thanks everyone. Make sure you sign up if you haven't already with Stop the War on Palestine, and we'll keep you posted about upcoming events. We need to take these leaflets out into our communities and let everyone know to be there on Tuesday the 17th. So I'll see you there. Intifada Revolution! Intifada Revolution! Intifada Revolution!
Alright, so that's it. Jump up. was just the one mainstream media guy who he's got a bouncer. He's got a reporter and a bouncer at the back there. My back is just crook as hell. And yeah, there's not going to be there'll be no incidents. I think it's very dependent on who's running it. And then yeah, the cops. There's a lot of cops there. There's not that many, to be honest. There's a few cops. I think they were kind of prepared if there was going to be any. Sometimes they do have a little bit of shouting and carrying on a bit, but yeah, often they don't. Sometimes they do. Depends on who it is. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm gonna head off anyway. So there's something the lady was saying. There's another one coming up where they're going to march. We're going to meet at on the 17th of March. I'm assuming they're going to meet at where do you say? The New South Wales Parliament, and then they're going to march from there. We don't know where. But there's the other one, the other group, the Black Caucus people, said they're going to meet on another date, and then they're going to march to the Sydney Opera House. So that's not going to go down. That is not going to go down well. I think that's the 21st of March. So you got a couple. There's a couple going on. The guy just said, he just walked past, goes, and said, "What a bunch of losers," and laughed. But there is a guy there dressed funny in his little hat and his funny glasses. All right, that'll do. All done. And yeah, just me rambling now. I should wait, but maybe I'll just wait 5 minutes.